Most every one of the early explorers claimed of seeing open polar seas in this area, vast bodies of water. In 1652, a gentleman named Joseph Moxon recorded that he had met up with a Dutch sailor who had just returned from a voyage to the North Pole, stating that the vessel he was on had achieved 2 degrees beyond the North Pole, where they came upon an open sea. The weather had changed quite suddenly, and his quote was, "It was as warm as Amsterdam in the summer." Once again, this is from 1873, a J. David Williams. Our next map doesn't have a date on it. It's a small map also, black and white. And for a couple of reasons, it's one of my favorites. The date I'm going to attach to it is between 1910 and 1912 because of the journeys that it shows. It includes on this map the journey of Perry in 1909. Now, this map indicates that Perry left here north of Greenland and went straight to the North Pole and straight back. I find that extremely peculiar, even by today's explorers, to go straight to a point and then come straight back. It's virtually impossible. Another peculiarity of this and other polar region, North Polar region maps is that they fail to mention the journeys of Frederick Cook. Frederick Cook claimed that he'd gotten to the North Pole before Perry. And when they were before Congress, the two of them proved without any question that neither one of them had gotten to the North Pole. Another peculiarity with this map is that in this area right here, in 1881, the Jeannette was crushed. The commander of the Jeannette was De Long. De Long and his men died in Siberia, but the wreckage of the Jeannette drifted. This line right here says the drift line of the Jeannette wreckage. The Jeannette wrecked here and then drifted all the way down through the North Pole, coming down this way, all the way to the southern tip of Greenland. The wreckage traveled 3,500 miles. And if we are to believe that this is all polar ice cap, how did this boat, this ship that wrecked, drift 3,500 miles down here?
This particular 1507 map was drawn with all the knowledge of exploration at that time, and all the coordinates that were brought forth by Claudius Ptolemy were included in that map, and any new lands discovered were added. Now let us look up here to the north. You can see 4 islands and a multitude of channels going through right to the North Pole, which appears to be a circular sea. This is very significant. Keep that in mind.
The first map from this book that we're going to feature is found on pages 97 and 98. And we're going to bring into the picture a cartographer of old named Gerard Mercator, who lived from the year 1512 to 1594. This particular map, very beautiful map, was engraved by his grandson, one of his grandsons, named Romuald Mercator. This map was engraved in 1587. Gerard Mercator was recognized for his brilliant ability to make maps. He was very highly respected throughout Northern Europe. In 1577, Gerard Mercator wrote a letter to Dr. John Dees explaining that there were 4 rivers up in the northern region that had a very strong flow. This flow was inward, towards the North Pole. And when sailors got trapped in these rivers, there was virtually no way to get out.
Now let us go to the far north. And it shows 4 islands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 islands crisscrossed by rivers. This paragraph here describes that between these 4 islands are 4 rivers that flow in a northward direction and empty into a central sea around the pole, up here. Over here on this island, the description reads that it's the healthiest island in the north. Now let us go to the northern part of the eastern hemisphere. This island is described as having inhabitants that are 4 foot tall, which they call pygmies. And over on this island, it gives a description of this river here, and it describes that this river has such a strong current flowing northwards that it never freezes throughout the whole year. A very interesting and advanced map for its time.
Okay, now we're going to see some more of Gerard Mercator's work. This map is on page 86 and half of 87 in the book Mapmaker's Art. Many significant things concerning this map. It is one of Gerard Mercator's most famous maps. You'll notice this is the northern hemisphere, with the 90th parallel being in the center. You will also notice that there is a navigational meridian placed here. We'll find out why later. You will notice here the detail of the Hudson Bay. And right here, we have Southampton Island. No question about it. This right here is the northern coast of North America. This is the northern coast coming over to Alaska. Point Barrow is about right here, and this Alaska is upside down, and it is missing the very important Aleutians. It is called the region of California, as was the entire west coast of North America. Right here we have what later became the Bering Straits, northern Siberia, Nova Zembla, northern Europe, Spitzenbergen, right here. And right here we can see a very detailed map, very detailed, very accurate, of the coastline of Norway. And if you look right down here, you can see the tip of Scotland. Iceland is right here. Moving over, we see Friesland again, and we can see also that right here is the 350th meridian line. And we can come up a little bit more. For many years it was believed that Greenland had a large island at its southern tip, which was not true. And here is Greenland. And up here in this corner, the upper left-hand corner of the map, we find again Friesland, but it's in much more detail now. all these wonderful places. There's little castles here, tiny villages, and Friesland is well documented. Now we're going to look at the script contained in these 4 islands, which we will see are called the Bargos Islands, with a mysterious apparition here in the center.
Let me describe to you the script that is on the landmass in the north. First, let us go up here. This describes the North Magnetic Pole. Let us now go to the physical pole. In dead center, it says Rupes nigra et altissima. Describes a very dark and high canyon right in the middle of the pole. Let us now go to this island over here at the top left. It describes that from the ocean they enter 4 rivers that flow northwards into the pole, and there are 19 openings from those rivers into the ocean. These rivers flow northward and empty into the Central Sea, and then empty into the very dark mountain or canyon, and they empty into the inner earth. This canyon is approximately 33 leagues wide, which is, I believe, about 100 miles. Now let us go down here. This describes that this is the healthiest and most fabulous island in the north. This here describes that this river or channel flows northwards and is divided, and it has 3 openings into the outer sea, and this particular channel is approximately 37 leagues wide. Over here on this island, it describes that here live small people or pygmies about 4 foot tall, which are called skrælingers in Greenland. Now over here, it describes that this particular river, its flow is so great northwards that it never freezes during the year. Over here, it describes that in this part of the north lie the Bargo Islands, which can be read in the book by Paolo Venetti, and they circle the pole in the sea. Another significant thing about this particular river here is that it only freezes 3 months out of the year. It is blocked right there, 3 months out of the year.
These Bargo Islands are never accounted for by any of the gentlemen who write such books as having been mythological or having sunk or anything, other than the fact that we received from our textbooks that this entire region is covered with polar ice.
Dr. Fridtjof Nansen, from his diary, another quote from Nansen: "This island we came to seemed to me to be one of the most lovely spots on the face of the earth. A beautiful flat beach, an old strand lined with shells, strewn above a narrow belt of clean water along shore, where snails and sea urchins were visible at the bottom, and amphipoda were swimming about. In the cliffs overhead were hundreds of screaming little auks, and beside us the snow bunting fluttered from stone to stone with their cheerful twitter. Here was life in fair land. We were no longer on the eternal drift ice. At the bottom of the sea, just beyond the beach, I could see whole forests of seaweed. Under the cliffs, here and there, were drifts of beautiful rose-colored